Hey there, and welcome to another Ask Me Anything session where I'm answering your questions about the publishing industry and writing a better book. Thank you so much to everyone who has been submitting questions. I'm so excited to see them all come in, and I've been doing my best to work through as many of them as I can. I hope you're enjoying these more off-the-cuff, candid responses and that they have been helpful. If you haven't already, make sure you go into my description and click the link to download my free story self-assessment. If you have a work in progress of any kind, it is designed to help you evaluate what you're doing well and where you could improve on your story, because I know how hard the revision process can be, especially when you are self-editing. So I hope the resource helps you out. It's also going to sign you up for my newsletter launching soon with exclusive tips and resources. We've got some great questions today, so let's dive right in. First question is, are there many agents who represent novels and screenplays, or any for that matter? Given the intertwined nature of the industries, it seems like this would be a growing field. This is a great question, and I totally understand what you're saying in that selling book rights is often intertwined with selling the film rights. In fact, literary agents will often sell the film rights at the same time that they sell the book rights to a publisher. However, I don't know of any agents who represent screenplays as well as books, and the reason is that while selling the rights to the story to a production studio and to a publisher is very similar and intertwined, the actual process of selling a screenplay is different. What I will say is that more and more you're seeing the authors whose books are getting made into film being involved in the screenplay process and the writing of it, usually with a co-writer of some kind. So I'm not quite sure if the literary agent would be involved in those cases, but as far as I know, literary agents aren't splitting their time between selling screenplays and selling books. They really are selling the book rights in whatever format that comes: foreign rights, subsidiary rights, film rights, and of course the main book deal, typically through a traditional publisher. My understanding is the process of selling screenplays is a bit different and doesn't involve the same players that selling the film rights does, but I'm admittedly not an expert in this particular niche. I just know that at least the agents that I worked for were not interested in screenplays. Here's another rights-related question. Speaking of copyrights, can I add song lyrics, business names, etc. in novels? Yes, I would say, especially when you're in the draft process, go ahead and include the lyrics or the trademark names if it's relevant and important to your story. Worst case scenario is when you get down the line and you have a book deal and you need to publish it, you do typically, depending on the amount that you're quoting when it comes to like song lyrics, for example, have to get the rights for that. But the publishing house can help you navigate that. And the worst case scenario is that the publisher is not able to help you get those rights and you have to cut it out of your story. So I would say, don't make the lyrics or any of the copyright material, trademark material, essential to your story, because it is possible that you're going to have to change it down the line. It's unlikely, but it's possible. But for the purposes of writing your draft and then getting a literary agent, no problem at all. An agent is not going to be concerned with that specific detail at this point. So go right ahead and work them in for now. Just don't make them so essential that you can't cut them if necessary. Here's another rights-related question. A lot of these are under the same topic, which is great. I have heard American literary agents say they won't consider a book only for sub-rights or foreign rights because they won't make as much off of it compared to if they were sending the book to an American publisher. So if someone is self-publishing, is it okay to submit to literary agents only for sub-rights or foreign rights? This is a great question. And on a technical level, it is possible for the literary agent to only represent your book for sub-rights or foreign rights. However, are they going to be interested in that? At least with the agents that I worked with, this was not the type of project that they were interested in taking on. They were taking on authors whose books they were representing to American publishing houses or UK publishing houses, and then the subsidiary and foreign rights would come off and branch off of that main publication. Because as you alluded to, the biggest book deal is typically going to be that initial one, the inaugural edition of the book. And if you have already self-published it, you've already taken out that opportunity for the literary agent to make a book deal on that. Unless you have extremely high sales for your self-published book, it's unlikely that a literary agent would see the upside in just working with you on foreign rights or subsidiary rights. If your book is a major bestseller and there's extremely high amounts of sales comparable to what you might get through a traditional publishing route, then I could see a literary agent maybe being interested, but it is likely going to be more of the exception and definitely not the rule. Here's an interesting question about plot twists. Can the reader find out about a twist before the protagonist does, or is it better to have them both find out at the same time? I would say it completely depends on the story, and I work on a lot of mystery and thrillers and suspense, especially where there's lots of plot twists, so this is a great question for me. And I would say it goes both ways. It depends on the perspective through which your story is being told, and also just the shape of your narrative and how you as the author want to help the reader move through the plot. Both cases can work. I would say if you are writing in close third person or first person, it is most likely that the reader is going to expect to experience the reveals at the same time that the character does. Because with those perspectives, we are inhabiting that character's mind and following them through what they are thinking and feeling at every turn in the plot. And so it would be disorienting in the case of those perspectives to then shift perspectives to tell the reader something that the character whose perspective we are following does not know. However, if you are writing a multiple perspective novel where this character knows the twist and this character doesn't, it could work. Or if you are writing an omniscient third perspective where you are having this bird's eye view of the plot, it could also work. So it really just depends on your specific situation, but both are fair game. Here's another question. There's a writing association for my state who will publish a collection of submissions every year, usually poetry, short stories, essays, etc., as long as the document hasn't been published before. This year they opened submissions to chapter selections from novels. I would love to submit my first chapter, but I'm nervous this might create a problem for me in the future if I try traditional publishing. Would a partial part of the book being published discourage the whole work from being considered by an agent? This is a good question, and I think it's an important one because while your case is very specific in terms of the contest you are going for, there are a lot of opportunities out there to have chapters or other excerpts of your manuscript get published, and many writers do get parts of their manuscript published and then they want, a book deal for the whole thing. So how does that work? I would say that if you want to be totally safe and make sure that you're not jeopardizing your chances of getting that portion of the book published through a traditional publishing path, then I would not submit it to the contest, and I would submit something that stands alone, like a short story that is unrelated to your novel. But if you do go ahead and submit the chapter and then it ends up getting published through this contest or through whatever publication you are submitting to, that is something that you could potentially discuss with a literary agent if they do become interested in representing your book. You would definitely want to raise their awareness to the fact that this section of the book has already been previously published. I'm not sure if it would be an issue or not. I think it really is going to be a case-by-case basis, and it would have to deal with the rights that that publication has taken in publishing that. I do know of cases where a author is publishing a novel and then a magazine or a newspaper will publish an excerpt of it in terms of building up publicity for the book's launch. That happens through the publishing house marketing and publicity department. So there are cases where you see excerpts from novels published elsewhere. I'm just not sure what publishing before getting the literary agent's representation to begin with, if that would cause an issue. I guess the worst case scenario I could see happening is that you would have to either remove or rewrite that chapter. So just keep all of that in mind when you are considering the potential gain from publishing the excerpt versus the potential issues down the line. Thank you so much to everyone who submitted a question. Keep them coming and leave me any more questions in the comments on this or any of my other Ask Me Anything videos. That's what I go through when I am filming these, so I'll continue to check those to see what new questions have arisen for you and try to answer as many as I can. As I mentioned, make sure to grab my free story self-assessment if you have a work in progress. I promise it's going to help you set a game plan for taking it to the next level. And as always, if you found this video interesting or helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already to help me continue growing this wonderful, amazing community. Thanks so much for watching and happy writing.